and start this special session as for about the superintendent search. And I guess we'll start with introductions, and I'll kind of pass things off to you, Lee, if you want to lead off.
Sure. My name is Lee Warren. I've been in education since 1972. Pretty much held every position there is through superintendent. I was a service co-op director for a number of years. I ran MREA for a number of years. I ran the Service Co-ops National Association out of DC for a number of years. In the last 7 years, all I've done is searches for MSBA. I live in Grand Rapids, and I cover the northern half of the state, and I think I've done everybody up and down the highway here, except you guys at one time or another. In the last couple of years at International, Oro, Roseau, and I just finished Kellier, Red Lake County Central, Red Lake Falls. I've done Badger a year or so ago, and so I pretty much know all this area. My folks were reservists in Bemidji, so I live, this is kind of my territory, so glad to be here to help you. You chose a limited search. There are two kinds of searches that MSBA does. The limited search, we come in and help you get everything put together, kicked off, so that you can start the search, and then you take it from there. Once we get all the applications in, we give them back to you, and you take a look at the applications, decide whom you want to interview, pick out your interview questions, and bring the candidates in and interview them and make your decision. We will be available. I told Boyd that I'm available by the phone. This is my cell phone, and it'll be on the vacancy brochure too, but you can call me anytime, and I mean nights or weekends, I don't care. 507-828-2468. 507-828-2468. And I really don't care. If I'm answering the phone, I'd be glad to talk to you. I think this maybe my 60th or 61st search. So I've done quite a few, and I've done a number of limited searches this year. I think I've done 4 or 5 so far. So we put together a series of documents for you to take a look at. The first is the timeline. This is where you're basically deciding what dates you're going to meet, and you're telling potential candidates, put these dates aside so that if you get called for an interview, you're available. So the first timeline that you're looking at here, we put a really short window on it. We're kind of getting in towards the end of the search season, so to speak, and a number of searches are closing up. I think I finished 7 or 8 so far this year, and I've got 3 underway right now, and they're further along. So we close this up a little tight. When we advertise, we post an MSBA, so a superintendent is looking for jobs, they're going to look at MSBA. That's the one site they want. This timeline and the vacancy brochure that we built tonight, we will also give to you to put on your website, because if I'm a candidate, one of the first places I'm going to go is to your website and dig through it from one end to the other. We also will put it on MASA, the Superintendent's Association, and they will post it as well. We put it on EdPost, another common site that people look at. In addition, we send out emails to all administrators during this search, probably at least a couple of times, so that they'll know that it's there. The superintendents, and some of the superintendents in your region already know, because I've run into them. I'm doing the Northwest Service Co-op search as well, and I've run into some of them there. They knew about it already. So the word spreads. It's a small fraternity. There are only 300 people, men and women, who do this job, and pretty much they know each other and know about each other. So what we looked at was we'd start posting in 2 days. We've never done it that short, by the way. That's an extremely short thing. The lady that finishes building the vacancy brochure, we're all out working most nights. I actually have the next 2 nights off, but she's worked every night this week, including Friday. But she said she'd crank this out and have this posted by Friday, which would mean we would send it to you to be posted as well. And I'll work with Jill, and Jill can do whatever it is that you do here to get that posted. So that gives us about 3 weeks, 3+ weeks to advertise. That's a short window. Typically, it's 7 weeks, 6 weeks that we advertise. So we're going to push hard, because if you go too far back, some candidates are going to be gone. Some candidates won't apply because they feel like they're going to stiff their district if they leave. And you get yourself boxed into a position where you almost have to go to an interim for 1 year and then reopen the search again next December or January. So we're going to try it, if you're okay with that, use a shorter window. We can change these dates and push them back if you like. But it seems to me that an April 1st deadline should work. Now, what'll happen is midnight on April 1st, and I don't know why we chose April Fool's Day, but we'll ignore that, the humor around that. The midnight April 1st is the deadline. The next day, April 2nd, our team will be going through papers, and we'll be making sure that there's licensures, all the details that needs to be there. All of our applications are done electronically. We use a system called Revelus. Revelus was created by the Ohio State School Board Association, and now I think 23 states use Revelus. Applicants build their files and leave them sit in a file in Revelus. We can't see it. They're the only ones who can. When they see an opening, say in Lake of the Woods, and they decide, I want to apply, they will release their papers. That'll be the first time that it gets open. So by April 1st, the people that are going to apply will release their documents to your file. We review it the 2nd. On the 2nd, you'll get an email from Shelby Herrera in our office saying, would you create a username and password to give you access to your files? She has great directions. It's really easy. So on the 2nd, you create a username and password. The morning of the 3rd, before usually 7:30 or earlier, she's sending a note out with the link that will give you access, and you'll have 24/7 access to all papers. So you see exact same thing that we see: the letter of interest, the resume, education history, the work history, references, people that were supervisors for them, the letters of reference, licensure issues, and then we'll also, tonight, we can pick some specific questions for Lake of the Woods that they will have to answer, so that when you read their papers, they're answering your question. It's another screening tool for you to use as you look at papers. So then beginning the 2nd, you'll start looking at papers. Our team of people, there's usually typically 4 people like me that go through all of the papers. We'll take a look at who best matches your leadership profile. You filled out a survey, and that's been collated and put together in your vacancy brochure, and I'll point that out in a little while. Basically, you're saying to any potential candidate, this is what we're looking for. This is what's important to us. And they're going to go, that's me. I like that area. I'd like to be there, or whatever. They will decide whether or not they want to release their files. And then they'll answer these specific questions that you put together. So then by the 4th, I will send you our team's recommendations about who seems to, in our opinion, best match your criteria. Now, you can choose to interview those people. You don't have to. They're just our suggestions about who might, from our opinion, best match what you're looking for. Last night, I was working in Proctor, and they had 13 sets of papers. We recommended 6. They debated a while. Eventually, they chose the 6 that we recommended. I worked in another district, and we recommended 4 people out of their group of about 8. They ended up interviewing they ended up interviewing 3, because that's who they wanted. So it's perfectly your choice about who you want to interview. You may know some of the people, you may not, and I would recommend this, that I gave you my cell phone for a reason. We can't talk about candidates out in the open. Statute protects them until they're named in public as a finalist. You can't reveal their names to anyone. You can't reveal where they're working, none of that. There are 2 places that you can get sued, and you will lose. This privacy issue is one of them. So, part of my job is to protect you. I'll give you this one. Don't talk about anybody. Just don't do it. But you can call me. Because one-on-one, I can talk to you if you ask me the question, but I can't call you and give you information. So don't be afraid to give me a call. I'm fine with that. So then we need to decide the lower part, hopefully run your calendars, what dates will best work. The first one is when you will get together to determine the finalists. And I'm suggesting it should be within a few days of the fourth. Let me pull up my own calendar here.
Fourth falls on a Friday.
The 4th is a Friday, so, like this 7th or 8th, somewhere in there, 9th, whatever works for you.
I'll throw a wrench into the works right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone the 8th through the 24th.
Okay, that's,
So,
Of April.
yes.
And we already have a meeting scheduled on the 8th. We're having the meeting, right?
you want to, just thinking, you want to push this deadline back then? And then try to set up towards the end of April? That's cut pretty close.
As long as, no, I'd say keep it the same, and as long as, if I'm back by the time I meet, I'll have communications, I can look at stuff and everything,
So you're
so.
able to like join, because they're all private meetings because.
No.
No. But we can't,
Everything you do is public. The debate about or discussion about who to interview, the interviews.
but we can't
everything.
use names.
Use letters.
When you get the papers and you start looking at the papers and you haven't met yet to talk about who you want to interview, yeah, it's private. You'll get together, and when we send you, when I send you a note, from Shelby, you'll get the list of the names, and you'll see a letter by each name, A, B, C, D.
Okay, so
when you
when
begin
we're
to talk, I want to talk
discussing-
about candidate C. I really like candidate C. Don't talk about where they work or whatever. They have a lot of skill sets. They match what it is our profile is. I really think we ought to interview them. Somebody might say, candidate A, I'm not sure that would be the best match for us. But, Mama used to tell me, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything. So be careful about what you say. I mean, you can say that I'm not sure that this candidate best matches us, but use those letter designations. And then when you get to the point where you want to recommend some people, the motion, and I'll send the sample motions to Boyd, or I can send them to all of you, whatever you like. I recommend that we interview candidate B, D, and F.
So it's a
And the motion is passed.
Okay.
Okay, then you mix up the names. You know who they are. Nobody out here knows who they are. Then you feed the names back that don't match the letters so that you maintain as much privacy as you can. The people that you don't select, you can never, ever release their names. And that's where the privacy comes in. All of the board meetings that you do are public. You cannot do this process, any part of this, negotiations for a contract, none of it in private. It has to be done in public. The only way around that for negotiations is that when you get to the point where you're ready to offer somebody a contract, you as a group decide this is the total package, we're not going to exceed that, and we authorize, Craig, Boyd, whomever, to meet with them and work it out. It still has to come back to you for approval as a board, but then that's the only way the negotiations can happen other than like this. If you do a committee for your negotiations, and that's the way you want to do it, that's an open meeting on MSB's recommendation. Now, I've run into a lot of districts who say, well, we don't advertise our committees. Well, I don't want to hear about it.
Sure.
You can do what you normally do, but you shouldn't. So I just always remember that everything should be done in public and protect their identities until they're named. Once they're named, I mean, Google is a way of, revealing everything about everybody. And, nobody can put anything on the internet that's not true, so, you can believe what you read.
Right.
But, everybody's going to find out in a heartbeat. I've had it where I've been in a meeting like this where you select the candidates, and we do it at the very end of the meeting, and then I go to call them, and within 3 minutes, they've already seen it on social media. So I turn around to people that are in the audience and say, would you give me the courtesy of 10 minutes before you post anything so that I can try to call the candidates so they can hear from me rather than having social media outrun me. And everybody's really good about that. But that's kind of the reality of the way it'll go. So they're just approach it with the idea that there isn't nothing in private. Everything's out in the open, except you have to maintain their confidentiality.
Are you able to appear by Zoom during that
Maybe.
time?
I'm going to be in Japan, so
Oh.
it'll be an early morning meeting.
So you're looking at,
Okay, so you're,
you're looking at 12-hour difference, 10 hour.
Yeah, about 12 hours.
12 hours, I think, yeah.
So,
Boy.
but it should be, it depending, and again, it depends on what is occurring at that stage or whatever, and stuff like that. So
I mean, just to
I just don't want
touch on
to,
that topic, I don't think,
You can do
I don't
that?
think I want to push this back. And
yeah, I don't want to push it back
Because
either.
I agree with you that you might have some folks who might take another position because they'll
Yep.
find out an answer sooner than waiting for hours
Yep.
or something.
I lost one in one district I was working at this week. They would have been one of the 6 finalists, and they took another job.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening right now, is that Melrose was interviewing last night. Somebody down southeast was interviewing. They're just constantly happening at this time of the year. You can meet, the statute covers the way that it can be done. So if Boyd wanted to join online, when you put the meeting posting out, you put that Boyd Johnson will be online, and anybody that wants to join him there can join him at this location. Probably not many people will. He just has to make it available. Technically, that's the way it works. And if you want to meet without him, you can do that too, as long as you've got a quorum.
We're going to need your address.
Yes.
So
But you
we're
leave
looking for a date then?
Yeah, I
Or-
think what you want to do is, let me walk through this quick, and then I'm going to turn it back to Boyd. You all can have a discussion about what dates are. The first date is when you choose whom you want to interview. Typically, then give yourself about 3-4 days after that to the first round of interviews. So those first date, 3-4 days, maybe a week at the most, and then the second round within 3-4 days again. Where was I just working? They had 3 days in between. So it was a Wednesday, Friday. So they had a Wednesday first round and a Friday second round. They got through the first round and one person stood out so much that they just offered them a job right on the spot. But those are the dates you ought to pick. Now, the designee begins negotiating the contract. I don't think you need to put that in there. I think you could throw that out. And the board meets to approve the employment. I think you can throw that out. You're going to do that as quickly as you can. And it depends upon your methodology of how you want to negotiate, whether you have one person who represents you or whether you do it as a committee.
Sorry, which ones did you say we could throw out?
I would throw out the bottom, the second from the bottom, third from the bottom.
Okay.
The designee begins negotiations in Horton.
Okay.
You're going to do that anyway, and it doesn't need to be on this timeline because it doesn't affect anything really. So 3 dates that you probably want to pick out are the first 3, the top 3. Make sense?
Beginning Wednesday the 2nd, we'll be able to start looking at the application
Yes,
itself.
in the morning.
And then on the Friday the 4th, we'll be able to see the recommended finalists.
Yeah, and Craig, I may send them to you on the 3rd. As soon as our team meets, I will send it out. And what you'll get from me is an email basically saying, after reviewing candidates, we feel candidates B, C, D, whatever it is, best match your hiring profile, your leadership profile.
Well, given our chair's going to be gone, I mean,
Can
I
we
don't
meet
think it's the
April 7th for that first one?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said 8 to the 24th is when you're gone?
Yes.
I think that would be good. So
You have another meeting?
April 7th, board meets to determine the finalists, interview questions and procedures.
You have another meeting that night?
No.
No,
Okay, what time would it be?
6.
5,
We do
6,
5.
whatever works for,
I like earlier
whatever works
if
for everyone.
possible.
Okay, and it would be a special board meeting, okay? By the way, I will work with Amy to try and get this rebuilt first thing in the morning, and I'll email it out to you as soon as we get it rebuilt. I know she's working tonight. I don't know what time she's getting back. I probably will get back before she does. But I don't have access to the program that does this. All right, April 7th, 5 p.m., special board meeting. Pick finalists. Interviews.
Before I forget, we had a question about the interview. Can you provide also the sample interview questions and stuff for us to review ahead of time?
Boyd and I talked about this. I just had this request from another district who did a limited search. We don't typically provide them.
Okay.
I will say this, Google it and you'll find tons of stuff. Contact Kelly, or just went through this. Mary Thayer is the board chair. She might be very helpful to you. If you're looking for other suggestions, contact me and I'll see what I can do. I just can't give them to you. I don't deal with contracts and money. I hate doing that, but that's part of the contract.
Understood.
As for the full thing. So, but I'll guide you to where to find them. Yeah. And then write the questions that match your leadership profile when we get to that, and I'll point it out in that order.
So I presume we're on to the second to be determined date of board conducts first round of interviews.
Yeah.
How many days do you usually go after?
Well, here's what typically happens, and I don't really know what to tell you. I would suggest initially, if we were early in the season, to pick 2 dates out, if you were only going to meet at night. Think about it this way. You do about an hour interview. About an hour interview is about 15 to 17 questions. And the last question I think you ought to do is have them, what questions do you have for us? Because when that happens, everybody's guard goes down and they start just, yeah, I do have a question. I read in your strategic plan this and all, and you don't prepare for it from your end. Just have the conversation, and this conversation opens up. Before that, you're formal. You're asking them questions. They're kind of, you'll see them stiffen up. You can just see the difference. And when you get to the end and you flip the script, all of a sudden they kind of lay back, and you can get way more feel for their personality, I think, in that case. But so 1 hour of interviews. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes in between so that you can move people in and out and whatnot. So if you do that, 3 people in one night starting at 5 o'clock, that's 5. And if you don't break for lunch or anything, 5, 6:15, 7:30, finish at 8:30, begin to have your deliberations. It'll be 9:30 before you get out of here. I have done 6 in one day. I just finished that in Crosby Ironton. We started at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got out of there at 9:30 at night. So 1 day shot, you can do 6, but it's a pull.
So let's say we decide who we're going to invite in for an interview. How far out do you normally schedule those? 1 week, 2 weeks? What's appropriate for the candidates? What are you recommending?
If we didn't have, a big gap, I would say do it inside of a week from the time that you pick the finalists. Maybe sooner the better. It's like striking while the iron's hot. It's almost like if you go, we want to interview you, it'll be 2 weeks from today. And then if they're looking, they may be looking at other jobs, and that changes the perspective. But you can do whatever you like. We'll guide you through that. I mentioned to Boyd earlier that this is the one meeting that I'm with you, and after this, then we'll guide you through until we get your candidates, and then you're on your own. But I will provide the next step, the document of 2 pages of everything that you need to do, so that it'll help you make decisions. And I'm always a phone call away.
So we're talking like we meet like a Monday, and by Thursday we should be in.
But that's the issue we presented if a chair's going to be gone. I mean, it's such a big decision. I'm
sure the vice chair, it's, again,
If you're able to appear by
I can
Zoom.
zoom in. I should be able to zoom in and everything, and then listen in on the interviews and chime in and stuff like that.
So then what do interviews look like if we're all together?
Just like this.
They are
Make it intimate, get,
But there's specials.
The special board meetings.
Special board meetings,
yep, that's the only thing you can do at the board meeting.
and you post it.
Yeah,
That's a
and I've
special
already
board meeting.
supplied sample postings
Okay,
for all of the meetings that you'll run into.
okay, okay.
Then I
Got
guess
it.
one of the details, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told when doing interviews, whatever I ask, if you ever deviate from the list of questions, whatever you ask one candidate, you gotta ask them all.
Don't deviate.
Yeah, or better yet, don't deviate.
Stay on track.
This happened in a district, to me, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The first candidate, everybody took turns asking the questions. At the end, they turned the tables, what questions do you have for us? Somebody asked the candidate a question, and everybody panicked because they knew they weren't supposed to. And the candidate went ahead and answered it, and, so when they got done and the candidate left, the board members said, what are you doing? You can't do that, you can't deviate. We rewrote all the stuff and added that question in so that everybody was asked the same thing. Otherwise, if you just kind of branch off whatever, it's not fair because one of your first candidates might have a great answer for a question that you asked somebody later on. And you don't have the benefit of knowing that. So I would suggest, if you can, to stay with the script.
And I think, Boyd, with the, kind of like what me and Robin did at the special sessions when we were gone, you don't have to post your location when there isn't any votes being made.
That's true.
Yeah,
But if
so
you-
like we were able to zoom in, because we weren't voting on anything.
But let's just, let me lay out a scenario for you. Let's say Boyd's online. You only have one interviews because you didn't have that many people. Maybe you interview 3 people, and you get to the end of one person just jumping on at you, and you're just going to, we don't want to let them go, whoever she or he is. We would like to make an offer.
Oh.
If he doesn't post where he is, and that it's available for the public, he can't.
I can post where I'm at.
Okay, yeah,
It's not a problem.
Pretty sure nobody will join you, but.
They can come and find me and make sure I'm there if they want.
Yeah, but you're right. That's exactly right.
So when are we thinking? I'll be gone also. Some of the same last dates that you'll be gone. From April, I think 22nd to the 25th. Or coming back on the 25th.
So,
Are you going each of those days, Robin?
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess let's ask it this way. Board selects the finalist. So when do we want to select the finalist by? So if we want to select it before the 25th, then I would say you'd need to meet the 21st
Yeah.
or before.
We're doing that April 7th at 5 p.m.
No, that's when we meet to determine, well, there's
Determine the
another, it's the third one down. The third
wow.
time, yeah. Because that's effectively the end of that's when we select somebody, right? The third one down, third
Well,
date down,
Yeah, if you go 2 rounds of interviews.
if we go 2 rounds. So that's
Can we just throw, maybe this won't work at all. This would require you to really do a lot of reading right away. As soon as you get access to the candidates' papers, you got to get into it quickly. And it might be too fast, but if you did the finalist selections on the 4th, you probably could do the first round of interviews on the 7th. But you'd have to contact the people, and as long as they know in advance that there are interviews that date, you can do that, but that's quick. That might not work, it's just an idea.
I am
Fast.
in a wedding that day in Mexico. So like,
other
definitely
than
on
that-
the 4th, like,
And on the 4th,
like
I'm on the
literally
phone.
not able to touch my phone.
And I'm on the
Now,
they work as well on the 4th.
now they bring it up that they have conflicts too. I thought I was
That day.
the only one throwing a wrench into the works.
Just picking on you.
And tequila.
Mine's only a 3-day span.
And tequila and ATV don't mix.
Well, I think, so let's do, as we were decided, April 7th we'll look at the paperwork, determine our finalists and who to interview, and the interview questions and procedures. And then,
What about the end of that week?
I wonder,
10th, 11th.
the 8th, 9th, and 10th are not good for me.
11th.
Friday the 11th works well, and perhaps maybe that would work well.
Anyone else? The 11th,
I think that's okay for me.
that's an option.
And did you recommend setting up 2 different dates for interviews depending upon number of folks? So if tentatively, let's,
I don't even know what to tell you, Craig. You know, normally I would set up 2, if you're going to only go evenings, I would go
Yeah.
2 evenings to set it up and think of 3 and 3. But if you only get 5 candidates and 2 of them, you know, don't look so hot.
my biggest concern would be is if you have perhaps a prime candidate that says, I'm in Mexico or I'm in Japan on the 11th, sorry. And so it would be helpful to, should we
Have 2
Should we have
options.
the
2 days.
Friday the 11th and Monday the 14th, and we push for the 11th as our, until we overflow onto the 14th, but if somebody has an issue with the 11th, we can schedule them for the 14th.
I have done online interviews
Yeah.
in the past. I've done them this year. I've only seen one that really works well. I did one from a cruise ship one time, and they actually ended up hiring that person, but they came back for the second round. You can do it. I think, to me, you lose a lot. In person, you get all of this nonverbal communication. You get all of these cues that you don't necessarily get online. And you get the advantage of, you know, seeing them, you know, maybe shaking their hand or visiting with them a little bit. You get a feel for how they're going to play publicly, which you don't always get ITV. You pop up and they got your head, you know.
I mean, that's my thought
I
is
like
we
that.
schedule for the 11th, but we can, if they tell us, I'm sorry, I can't make it on the 11th, we can offer them the 14th.
You
And
know,
then hopefully we'll have them all just scheduled on the 11th.
yeah, and then you can always cancel, but you got to post it
But we
3
should be
days.
sure to still have it posted just
Yep.
in case.
Yep.
So then what for a second round of interviews? As a whole date,
And
assuming someone doesn't just like steal the show and we need to do a second round. The like end of that week be too quick if they come here, let's say they come here on a Monday, like 17th, 18th. 18th you fall into Good Friday and those types of things, depending on.
Yeah, Easter is 20th.
21st, yeah. Oh, yeah, 20th, and Easter Monday, the 21st.
I mean, there's not a restriction on that day, I'm just thinking of like personal preferences for people.
what days do we typically don't have school? What's our school calendar
Their school's
on them?
calendar, it's 18th and the 21st that are closed.
Okay, so,
School would have to be open.
You have no restrictions in April for meetings.
So even if the school is closed, we can still have a meeting. Jill, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe it's Friday.
sounds right.
Okay.
I was just thinking because here again, you have somebody putting in an application and it's Easter weekend and they're
Right.
got their family.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah. So
I don't know.
7.
If I was the person on the
14th?
other side, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to work for a school who schedules this right the day after Easter.
We either have to have it wrapped up the
It's-
17th or else pushed out, I think.
The days after school are that Friday and Monday.
Okay. What about 17th?
So here's another scenario for you. We post the 11th and the 14th, and we just do the 11th, we would have the 14th too, and we can call them back.
If somebody wants the job, they'll be here.
Yep.
Right.
That's my opinion now. I'm kind of, my wife tells me a little too hard line, but, you know,
We could
for
call
me, if
them,
they
yeah.
want to be here.
Yep.
And we don't want to lose out. by
Yeah, I
waiting.
don't see the benefit of waiting additional time. After our interviews, after our first round of interviews, if we schedule it for the 14th, and we can have time to, we'll have to have a discussion
Mhm.
right after they leave, right?
Mhm.
And then, so then if we actually made a decision right away on the 11th,
Or second interviews, or
or
for a
for the
candidate.
Make an
candidate,
offer, yeah.
they
As long as
could,
your position is posted, or, you know, that's the importance of
Yep.
posting that. I'm thinking out loud here, so I appreciate everyone's patience, but, I think maybe, second interviews would be right away on the 14th, and perhaps maybe the evening of the 11th, we'd be able to have some idea to say, hey, we'd like to have you back on the 14th.
And I think we'll know on the 4th, like once we see all the candidates. I mean, we'll know how many
right,
they're gonna
we'll
be.
know what
We'll
time
know-
we'll need.
You'll know on the second.
If we have a lot,
Okay,
then.
yeah.
You'll get papers on the second.
Yeah.
So then if we have a lot, we could potentially have 2 evenings that we would need to do interviews, which would be the 11th and the 14th.
You might want to
And
set
then
the
we would need to
17th or
set the
whatever. You
17th
can always cancel
as,
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
a second
I think that's.
round, if everyone's available.
Yeah.
We're kind of talking about that date loosely,
agree.
if people are open, I guess. That depends.
So April 7th, board meets to determine the finalists and the interview questions. The 2nd, board conducts first round of interviews. We're speaking about April 11th. And then
And potentially 14th, depending on number of candidates.
yeah.
But
if they have-
14th could also float to that second part of second round, if it's only a
You
few.
can do this, if on the 7th, you determine that you can do the interviews in one night, you
Right,
can also post that the second round of interviews will be the 14th. And
Because we'll have
cancel,
time.
if you have the 17th, the
Yeah.
second, cancel that. That way, as you contact candidates, you can say the first round is on this night, the second round is on this night, so they know. I mean, if they want to be here, they're going to make things work.
Right.
I agree.
and they'll see all these dates as well as they apply for this job, correct? Is that all listed on our, is that listed on the
Yes,
announcement?
this will be on the
like these
this will be on the
dates?
website. These dates will
Okay,
also flow
yeah.
into the vacancy
Yep,
brochure.
okay, the brochure, that's what I meant.
Or the 17th,
So
okay.
April 11th for initial interviews, backup initial interview date is April 14th. And then possibly we might change that.
Might change that to a second round.
Yep.
And then the
And then we'll have
17th.
the 17th listed as a second round.
5 PM special board meeting, both of them. Yeah.
Could 17th be the negotiation time then? Or
You
is
could-
that all looped in to the
You could do however you want to do, because if we don't list it on here, you're not locked in. Just however you normally would do it. If you have to post it, you know,
You mean this week.
3 day, you just need to do a 3-day notice. Otherwise,
Okay.
depending upon how you go about doing it, you could do it most anytime.
right?
Most boards are leaning towards coming to an agreement what the total package is going to be in turn one person knows, because they can do that over the phone. It seems to me, the last couple of districts that I've been working with have actually contacted the person, gave them kind of what the general package was. Yeah, I think I can live with that. I'll drive over tomorrow. Let's wrap this thing up. And
And
whatever.
that would be a public meeting, right?
Well,
or-
if you do it as a negotiating committee, it's public.
Okay.
If it's one person.
Yeah,
You do
because
it.
once the contract is put together, it still has to come back to you as a full board
Right.
for approval. You know, you aren't gonna change what you've already, as long as you set the parameters, and whoever represents you as a board understands that and stays within those parameters, you should be good to be able to approve the contract. There's gonna be a couple of limitations, I'm gonna talk about them once we get into the brochure, but yeah. You want set a second round date, like the 17th, just in case,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think so,
just to be safe?
just so we can all block off our calendars ahead of time.
5 PM again?
Yes.
Now, one weird thing that might happen, let's say that you get 4 people that you want to interview, you want to do it one night. Push everything back to 4 o'clock on the 11th.
Yeah.
And get her done in that night. It
Okay.
just gets a little later, but you can pull out 4. If you're gonna go more than that, you gotta push back into the day in order to pull that up. That gets to be,
Do
So
all of
if
us
you
have
po-
the flexibility to do that
Yeah.
with notice?
It's just, yeah, the earlier we go,
The earlier we-
later, or the earlier boys can have to be.
it's gonna be an early morning.
just have to decide, you have to decide what you're gonna do on the 7th.
Boy,
So the night of the 7th, you'll have to determine what the time frames are.
Okay,
Now,
Because
the
then we
early,
have that time, or that 3-day
Yeah.
window.
Yeah.
the early morning actually works out for me, because like the people we're going with, it's nobody's gonna be up at the same time I am, so probably about this time we're wrapping up is about the time everyone else is gonna be ready to go.
So you're not interfering with,
Yep, just have to get up.
Let me feed you back dates and times and make sure we're all in the same part.
Yeah.
Because that way I can have these built correctly tomorrow. April 7th for the determined finalists at 5 PM special board meeting. First round, 2 dates, the 11th and 14th, both at 5 o'clock special board meeting. And the second round, 17th at 5 PM special board meeting. Now, with the understanding is that you can modify that however you like on the 7th. Sound good?
Great.
Okay. Any other questions about timeline?
it says board conducts reference checks.
Yeah, the board,
so
what I'll do is, I can supply some examples. Typically, one person from the board will call references. We will have done a bunch of that, but I would recommend somebody from the board make some phone calls. I found that board members are way more open to talking to other board members because you're both elected and you go through the process. They talk to us because everybody in the state belongs to MSBA and there's a certain measure of trust. But I think it's worth following up. We will, you'll see all the references in their paperwork, so you'll know contact information's in there, phone numbers, everything you need, so that you can reach out and talk to them as well. But I'd recommend you don't all do it. You know, you just one person. Otherwise, if I'm a reference for one candidate, I get calls from 3 or 4 board members. Stop. You know, I've already given you information. So figure out who you want to do that.
So is MSBA, are they doing the actual background check portion of it, criminal background check?
Yeah, not the criminal background checks. You have to do a BCA check when you hire anybody for the district, and that's just a basic check. If you want to do more than a basic check, we do offer access to it. We don't charge for it, but they do. It's like $395, and it takes a week, and it's very detailed. I mean, I think the one I saw is 5 pages long, and it goes through everything. I mean, everything. And some districts do it. Some use somebody on their own. I'm trying to think of who the company is that we work through. But if you want to do that, we can arrange to have you do that, but you can also do it on your own as well. Most of the time, we're going to know the candidates. I mean, most of them are going to come out of Minnesota, most of them. And if they don't, we really start to dig in. I had somebody not too long ago from another state, 2 states away, all of a sudden was applying for jobs and had been their whole career in that state. All my red flags went up. And we began looking and searching and really digging deep, and it turns out it was legitimate. They wanted to be closer to the mail for a family member. So, you know, if we don't know somebody, we're going to dig in as close as we can. We're not always good. You know, we have made some mistakes over the years, but that's what we may want to do, an in-depth background check, and that is in-depth. We do, on a full search, we'll do a social media sweep, most of which you can do on your own. I just had a list that big on candidates for Proctor, and I shared that with the board chair. It's interesting because our social media sweeps go back a couple years, and we take a look at news articles and things like that. Typically what it'll pop up with is articles either positive about something somebody's done, or it'll be about some contentious issue that the superintendent had with the board. And it'll be what was reported and or what somebody wanted to post, you know, and didn't say anything. So when you do that, when you do Google people and whatnot, you got to kind of keep all of that in a balance so that, you know, the truth is usually in the middle someplace. Okay, we're good to go on the timeline then?
Yep.
We got it. Okay, we can take action on that now, Boyd, or you can do it with the vacancy brochure when we get that done.
We'll just do them all at once.
Okay. Now, the vacancy brochure, reached out. I don't know, Jill, did you supply this or information, or did Jeff?
Jeff will.
Okay, we asked for a bunch of the information about the district and the area, et cetera. So when you look at it, the left-hand side of the first page is about the school and the points of pride. And there's some basic information that is in there. Take a look at it and see if this makes some sense to you. We've got time to reword some of this if you like. We've got an open bullet point in the bottom if we want to add some things, or we can take some things out, however you want to do that.
Under Badet International Arena,
Yep.
could that be combined somehow with the one right under it? Because they're the same, right? It's called Badet International Arena,
I
the one
will
attached to
have
us.
her put them together.
And then,
Is it Lake of the Woods or is it listed?
What does it say on the side?
Jill's looking it up.
Yeah, I thought that, yeah, there,
Yeah, so like,
the two
the
lines are
Badet
separate.
International Arena is the newly built skating rink that's adjacent to our school. So
Okay.
that could be like combined together as
Yep.
one.
Amy does a really good job of putting that together,
Awesome.
so yeah, we can do that, no problem.
minor detail, but in the first paragraph, you may as well just say on the northern border of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
So the arena on the website is called Lake of the Woods International Arena.
Yeah.
So Lake of the Woods instead.
Got it.
Then if we will search this.
School website.
I'd go with
Lake
the
of the Woods.
I
official.
think it is Lake of the Woods,
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
very long.
Okay.
For some reason, like when the kid, I don't know if it's just hockey, but they would announce that they were playing Badet. And it's like, well, no, we're Lake of the Woods. And then for a home game, we're always announced as Lake of the Woods. We're not announced as Badet, but you go anywhere else and they call us Badet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Having been through two separate consolidations over the years as a superintendent, I understand the issues about what you call the facility or whatever. And that we probably are more sensitive to those things than people outside of our area.
I think Wabonica.
and actually, I
No.
just looked it up. I think our area is 1775. Not that it makes a hill of beans a difference, but
What's that?
in order,
No.
like up at the top, for whatever reason, it references the square miles.
Okay, this is what we were given. What should it be?
Oh, well, according to Wikipedia, which has been known to be right on occasion, it's 1775.
Is that the
Is that through the
county
lake?
though?
That's including the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of
Yeah.
the county, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So which number would you like?
Isn't the district technically cut off a little bit in our county?
If you,
Yeah,
oh,
like
the
cut
district,
in
leave the
the
district.
angle.
Yep, leave, no, the distinction
cuts
is,
in
and
on
it's
the
my
line.
bad, it's the district covers.
Oh.
So yes, stay with the original number. I'm sorry, my bad.
I can cross stuff off.
Sorry.
No problem, no problem.
It's because we're county guys.
Yeah, we're thinking countywide, and it's like, oh, no,
Now, you don't have to add more things. I mean, we can
Mhm.
spread this out, make it fit,
Yeah.
whatever you want. But
Yeah.
so are we okay with that, that left-hand section? You do your own food service and transportation, that's it. That's of interest to a number of candidates because they want to know whether or not you got a contractor for some of those things or whatever.
What are the thoughts on the Wabonica being listed?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar enough to provide an answer.
I wasn't sure if it was still open. I don't know.
I'm not positive.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Anybody
know. I heard they were closing down, but I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
Who's that?
Well,
Wabonica Inc. in the second or the first bullet point.
Dale used to work.
Mm. I mean, you can take it off. It's not really
Okay,
hurting anything.
you're
if
up on
it's,
the upper right there.
you know.
So do you want Wabonica removed?
I
yes,
think so.
yeah.
You want Marvin's to be expanded? Should it say more than just Marvin's? Most people, I mean, we all
Marvin
know
Windows
what
and
it
Doors.
is.
Yeah.
That's what I was suggesting.
Yeah.
And then they've dropped the S from it.
Drop that.
So
Marvin-
it's
just Marvin Windows
Marvin,
and Doors.
Yep, Marvin
They
Windows.
rebranded as Marvin, but Marvin Windows and Doors probably should be more better.
Windows and doors?
Yeah.
Got it.
I think, I'd like to reference maybe our average class size. Do we know that stat? Because it is small compared to other districts, I would imagine. Mary, do
We'll
you
look
know?
at Mary.
I know, I put you on the spot here, but
Okay, do we have to be exact?
No,
no,
Okay,
approximately, we say
let's
approximately.
17,
that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
like if we're talking all
So,
the way
pupil-
elementary and high school.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
think,
so just average class size 17.
yep, pupils or students, because I think that's huge. You know, we're not overcrowded, we have the opposite.
Got it. That'll go
issue.
in the bottom on the left side about the school. Anything more about the community or the area? Again, we don't have to add more. I can spread this out and make it look nice. By the numbers on the left is what was provided to us by Jeff.
I would add, unless it's on here, that we do have a grocery store and we do have a pharmacy, albeit the pharmacy is a little drawn back from what it had been, but I mean, if somebody's
And
looking to come here,
And a hospital.
Yeah.
and a movie theater,
Let's go over the list down.
and, well, is the hospital on there?
No, it's
No.
not.
Yeah,
How
definitely put the
about if we
hospital.
put many local amenities?
Well,
Because they're gonna look it up.
yeah,
They should look it up.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that.
I was just thinking of, along the lines of, okay, if I'm looking at this, what am I gonna be mainly looking for?
are we able?
Do they have a hospital? Do you have a grocery store? Do you have, because they know it's gonna be a small town, and,
Are we able to put like a link to?
You can.
Like the city or?
yeah, they can figure it out.
City
They're,
website?
they're gonna Google it,
I think,
I agree with the hospital.
yeah. Having a local hospital, I mean, well, it's the reason why we moved here, but, yeah.
There might be a lot of spouses that might be in the medical field,
Yeah.
also, for careers. But I agree, I think part of this, we should offer some form of a link to.
Or
like
are we reading
with
too much into
tourism.
this?
I
Our
think
county
the
webpage.
city, yeah, maybe
City of
like
Badet.
tourism, City of Badet. I know City of Badet has
Or the Get Hooked
Like,
for Life
get
website has,
community, explore Badet.
Yep.
actually, the Get Hooked for Life
There's a
website
map
has a lot of
On our city website of like things.
Should we
So,
send you the
city,
actual links?
city website,
Yeah,
link,
City of Badet.
Do you want those emailed?
That's what I was saying,
Or-
just send you the actual.
yeah, give it to me, I'll write it down.
So the city of Badet is ci.badet.
CI?
CI, yep. .badet.mn.us. I don't know who that's, sorry.
CI.
Charles, I know.
Yes.
I think it's a abbreviation for,
Badet.mn.us.
Yep.
Cool.
Um,
And I'll run it to make sure it's all Amy.
Yeah, the Get Hooked for Life website also
Yeah,
has,
that's pretty cool.
And
They-
it's gethookedforlife.com.
What was the other one?
yeah,
Get hooked for life. It's the word for?
yep,
Yep.
Yes.
Get
.com?
hooked. Yes.
.com, yep.
It's
That has-
ultimately,
Tourism.
tourism trying to bring folks
Yep.
here to work and to live. So
But
it's appropriate.
here's what I'll do. I'll need one of you that I can send this proof to as soon as I get it, that can look at it right away and give it back to me, because this is a short turnaround,
Yeah.
really short.
Yeah.
I can prove it.
You want to do that?
Yep.
What, give me your, well, I got it.
Not
Yeah.
Kayla.
It's up to you. I know. It's just, Kayla, just your school address,
Yeah,
okay?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Right. And what I'll do is, I'm hoping, those guys are socked in the weather. Barb Doran got stuck in Melrose last night. Amy got stuck down southeast someplace last night. Matter of fact, Barb was just heading home and was calling me as I was coming up here. And she was pulled over on 169 because the slush was so hard it pulled 3 cars in front of her into the ditch. That was this afternoon about 2.
Yikes.
So, I don't know what they're running into tonight because they had to go
That's
to
okay.
someplace else. But
Yeah.
I will try to get this cranked out as fast as I can. I do have one alternative to work with.
Okay,
So hopefully you'll see it
Okay.
tomorrow.
yeah,
And if I can before noon,
okay,
right?
yep, I'll keep an eye out.
So the dates will flow in automatically. You already selected those, right? Then if we go to the back page, the upper left-hand side, that's what your responses to the questionnaire brought up. These are the things that you are telling a candidate, this is the skill set we're looking for. We want people who do these things. And as you go about writing your questions and putting them together, try to reflect some of this stuff, figure out what it is that you want to ask that will tell you what you think matches that. So ethical, accountable leadership, you might want to ask something about. Tell us about a time when you ran into a difficult situation that caused you pause because of the ethics. How did you handle it? Give us an example or whatever it might be. Then underneath, we put previous super experience preferred but not required. You okay with that? That's what you had?
We're willing to entertain anything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Then salary and benefits. By the way, behind this is your response. Behind the responses is new language that last year's legislature put together. I'm not a fan. I try to be neutral, but I'm not very neutral on this one. We've always had this kind of information in the brochure about what the basic salary is, et cetera. But we found that districts find that they get themselves in a bind if they put a range. This happened at Thief River a couple of years ago. They limited the number of people that applied because of the range that they put together. They came back the following year, took off the top end, and they got exactly what they were looking for. Now, the statute was put together in order for budgeting purposes that says that you will now list the bottom and the top end starting salary. Doesn't say anything about any of the benefits, just starting salary. And as we know, benefits package is a whole different deal. So what I'm finding districts are doing now is that they're putting in what they believe their starting range should be in there. I think, if I remember right, you can look it up on Kellier's website, but I want to say that there was
110.
something like that. And the next page then is a spreadsheet of area districts that are close by you, what their current salary is based on 23, 24 ADMs as well. So you can take a look at where you compare to some of those folks, what some of the benefits are. Now, these are self-reported to us, so we don't always get everything. For example, it may or may not have things like, a relocation fee or a car allowance or phone or something. So what I'm seeing is that districts will put in what they think that first salary range ought to be, and then we've been putting in additional benefits may include benefits such as health, life, long-term disability, among other benefits. So you don't limit yourself, because that's pretty much, you've already got that determined. And then when you go to negotiate a contract, if somebody is bumping up against that top end, you can look at other methods to deal with that, whether that's a 403B or something else. And in the second year, you can go back to whatever salary figure that works between you and the candidate. It's just the first year that this has to be done. So anyway, Boyd, I'll give it over to you guys to talk about what that range ought to look like, salary range.
I guess I'll bounce the question back to you, since you've heard of deals going down around the area.
Yeah.
What ranges do they settle on?
Yeah, you know, what makes this hard is that you're comparing apples to oranges, because somebody might have somebody that's got 15 years of superintendent experience, somebody else has got somebody that's 2 years. So as you look at some of these, they may not be the same. But I
guess
would
let's
say that.
put it this
you
way,
know,
what did Kellier advertise their range as?
110 to 140,
Yeah,
and Kitson was, I think, 110 to 145.
Okay,
So 110's been consistent, as far as beginning. I mean, this is, recent, but in the last, month and a half, so.
I'd say that's our range to shoot for, at least right there. The
Right.
one, pick
But we are
140 or
aware that-
145.
Where are they going?
Each,
Just about.
well, each district got, what, 4, or, a good handful of applications.
I think Red Lake County Central, Red Lake Falls were in the same basic area. The two Red Lakes both have the same superintendent. And so I think they were in that same range that Kelly was. I think Kelly, theirs might have been 135 on the top end. Kelly went to 140.
I guess just for educating myself, I guess have a conversation about this, in the number 1 below.
Mhm.
Lake Woods current superintendent has a .8 FTE contract.
Yep.
So how does that impact what
Well-
our starting range is? And
Well, the
I don't know
reason
if it was
why he's a .8 is that's when the
reduction.
whole financial fiasco, and then we rolled in the building supervisor and the transportation supervisor. So,
Yep.
do we want a .8 superintendent going forward, which will probably change things, or do we want a full-time superintendent, which is, I guess, the way I would recommend it. I think we'd be limiting, we could try it, but I mean, I think we'd be drastically limiting ourselves if we go with a .8. But I don't know, I'm open for suggestions.
Like the initial, we have to look for a full-time. And if that still doesn't yield anything, then that's when we entertain
Yep.
less.
Well, it would be if they negotiated, it would have to be something they would want to, I'd see it. I mean, if you hire them at full-time, it's like, well, unless they only want to come in, I would think that would be a negotiating thing on them.
No.
So, but as far as our initial salary benefit stuff, as long as everybody agrees, we're looking for a full-time superintendent, and I would say our bottom should be 110,000 based off everyone else, and then it's really just a matter of picking the top end. Do you want 140,000 or 145,000?
I'm assuming it's probably the same group of individuals that are applying, like this half.
That's my guess too.
So does a person come in just incentivize 5,000 more, try and yield something different? Or whatever that number may be? On the edges 250, I mean, whatever, just something above to entice someone else?
To me, people move for a couple of different reasons. One, they're ready for a change. 2 is location. And it's usually location. And 3, they got to move. So as I look at candidates, it's typically what drives them.
I don't know that 5,000 is.
I don't know if it changes anything.
It gets to a certain
Yeah.
point, if you want to be someplace, that the money isn't as important. Are you in the ballpark is what they're going to ask. Sometimes you entice somebody to be someplace and they don't want to be there, or worse, their spouse doesn't want to be there.
Right.
You get somebody in and within a year the spouse goes, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here. And I run into that a lot, just because they don't know what they're getting into, or,
These, the salaries on this chart, that's what they're,
That's the current.
Current.
the current
Salary.
amount,
Yep.
but we don't know how long they've been in that position.
we don't. Well, the Roseau one, I do know. He'd been there a long time, and when he went to Roseau, I did that search, they had to negotiate up in order to make that work. So lots of experience. War Road, I did that. He had been a superintendent for 2 or 3 years prior to that, before he went
Yeah.
there. I did Badgers, that was just last year. I don't know about South Coaching. Kellier, yeah.
Well, we know that
I didn't
they
know
just
about
posted starting at 110.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be inclined with 140,000 if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so too. I mean, just looking at the size of those other schools compared to Road and Roseau, I feel like 100
Yeah, I think
would be appropriate.
Oro and Roseau are kind of outliers
right.
from us.
Yes.
Yeah. So 110 to 140?
Yep.
Okay, and then the language for the back side of it is that additional benefits available may include health, life, long-term disability, among other benefits.
Yep.
You okay with that language?
Yep.
It's generic.
Because then they can determine
That'll
how
be-
they want to negotiate.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sure that will be a question that they will, might have in the interview, so,
You know, if they're worth their weight in salt,
yeah.
they're gonna do the research necessary. This information is not hard to get. It's public. Matter of fact, if I made a
Right.
phone call to Jill and asked that question, she'd have to find the information provided to me.
Right.
So there are no secrets regarding that, and anybody that's good at doing their business can look it up on MDE and find that anyway, so.
Now, one thing we are going to need to do, like we have that in there, but when it comes time to negotiate, we're going to have to give Sheena a heads up with what we're looking at including, because this can drastically change the actual benefit, the actual package that's being offered. So we do have to be careful of that.
Benefits are expensive.
They can be very expensive.
Your point's, I think, important enough that somewhere in here, within our scheduling, are we gonna get those questions answered?
When is
in
your
our
next
schedule?
board meeting, regular board meeting?
24th, is it?
Yeah.
I
March
said-
24th,
Yep.
So it's coming up.
yeah.
That would be a good time to have that discussion.
We'll give her a heads up beforehand and stuff, and hopefully she'll have an answer for us.
It's really good. It makes your life easier if you kind of solve that before you get to making an offer. If you get to the offer and you haven't gotten there, then pressure comes on. We got to do this. We got to get this done. And it's better, I think, if you really spend some time in advance and work your way through that before you get to that point.
Like, the way I picture it happening is we'll have Sheena give us kind of the, whatever we've been doing or whatever, the price tag on each of these and what's kind of the norm. I mean, what are the teachers already getting? If there's any that's kind of outside the norm, if she can get us a ballpark figure on that, because then we'll have a pretty good idea. Because I assume they're going to have a dental, life, I assume we're not going to give them a car. They'd have a phone,
Currently, we have a 403B contribution.
403B. So we'll have to add all those up. Ballparking it, if I have to go off the top of my head, it's probably worth another 30 to 40,000.
So,
But we can ask Sheena and she would have a better idea.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think.
sure she could break it down by what
Yep.
single benefits would be, family benefits would be, and then contribution to, because those are all negotiable.
Yeah.
okay. We'll make sure that's on the next board agenda.
So the way I ultimately picture this, whoever does the negotiating, we have a top dollar all inclusive, like arbitrarily say it's 160,000 just for argument, that includes everything. And then, so then when you're negotiating and they're picking out or negotiating benefits, okay, well now if the combination exceeds the amount that we're willing to do, then
We
we
need to
have
know the
to.
total, but
Exactly.
yeah,
Right.
the total, and that, and for our minds, that's the most important thing, is the total amount.
Yep.
I mean, so if it's divvied here and there, it's all money out the door. So,
Is that a pretty good assessment?
You're right on
Okay.
the money. Pardon the expression.
So since we're talking about that and the negotiation, how much with your HR experience and with your past school experience with the principals and stuff have you done this?
I've never hired a superintendent before.
Yeah, but you've negotiated other contracts?
In partnership with like administration.
Mhm.
So like when hiring admin, working more so like the Sheena part of it, of getting the numbers and doing like the back and forth, yeah.
I'll shoot an email off to Sheena tomorrow and just give her the thing and kind of
What the
what
current,
we're looking for, and if she can come up with ballpark figures for us.
and what it currently is, and then,
Yeah.
for a
Always,
full-time person, if things are prorated because our current person is,
yep.
0.8, what the full-time value would be. If it's different. Right?
So, I guess right off the bat, or do you guys see stuff that we definitely want to take off the benefit to not even entertain?
Well, he's,
I'll write that generic thing so
yeah,
that
he's writing it
it's the
generically.
benefits
We don't
may
need-
include, and I'll put like health, life, among other benefits, something really generic, so
Like-
that it'll be up to you to where you want to go. That gives you the greatest flexibility.
Yeah, I'm asking it not to advertise, but for the negotiating part of it and what to ask Sheena. Like, I assume we're not gonna
Oh.
offer a car.
I would say health, dental,
Yep,
vision, HSA, 403B. It would probably help to have, even though it's default, but based on what they're making as a salary, also determines what is getting put into their TRA. That also is part of the budget, so if they're making more, then more is going into their TRA based on percentages.
mhm.
Is there a vision offering here? I don't think there.
I have no
Is there?
idea.
Maybe not.
We get a set amount of money and then we can decide whether we want. Okay, and I'm speaking as an administrator because HSA isn't an option for me. I have to flex just based on what I get. And so I choose to have dental and vision, and so much from what's covered by health insurance as a whole goes to that.
So it's
So
kind
you're
of
still paying it.
like a cafeteria plan where you're,
Yeah.
And they could negotiate that they want us to cover more of their benefits, like that they're their own separate
because under our
island from
district
like
here,
teachers and stuff.
health insurance is just a lump sum.
yeah, and I'm not sure. Don't quote me, but I don't think.
It may have been reported that way, Jim,
Yeah, I
just
don't
simply
think
because
Right,
that's
like they
what
might
we're
have just
doing,
put
but
their-
it might be a percentage, I don't know.
Yeah, so they could just put like it costs them,
So I don't think.
Almost positive, yeah. You know, you would have PTO in there.
I think if
obviously.
you just put all benefits,
Yeah.
pretty much what it costs
Just
to
ask
have
it.
our superintendent
Yep, can do
and
that.
line items.
Almost
That-
all superintendent contracts are really very much alike. There's not a whole lot of difference between them. Depends upon what the district is offering in terms of benefits as a whole, and then how much per benefit.
Okay.
And your business manager can give you that.
Okay,
Okay.
So if I can, I'll review this. We already did the timeline, and I'll review the changes on here. Then if you want, go ahead and approve these.
Okay.
Then what I will do with your okay is I will get these rebuilt, this one, and I'll send it to Kayla, and between us, we'll get this fine tuned, so that we can go to print right away and get it out. Everybody good with that? Okay, then
Yes.
Boyd, I turn it back to you to approve the timeline and the vacancy brochure.
okay. No, we don't need, you just need my agreement, right? I mean, we don't need a full vote of the
Yeah,
board or
because this
anything,
isn't
it's
gonna
just,
be
yeah,
a meeting.
because it's
Right.
just, yep. So, all right, well, whenever Jill's, we can sign away.
A couple of, I'm sorry.
Nope, go.
Couple of things I want to give you caution about. Again, my job is to try and make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble. And there are a couple of, I think, guidelines that we found over the years that will help you do that. Anybody that approaches you to ask you for a letter of reference, I would turn them down, just out of principle. Once you do that, there's an expressed expectation that you're giving to the candidate that you'd vote for them or whatever, and you may not end up doing that, and you just set up yourself for other problems. And then it has the look of impropriety. So I would just say, turn down any candidates that approach you. And if candidates do call you to ask about the job and whatnot, refer them to me. It's best that you don't have contact directly with candidates because you could do or say something that wouldn't be helpful for you as a board, but you also could set up an uneven and unbalanced opportunity, and the playing field wouldn't be level. If they've got questions, tell them to call me. Probably they're going to call Jeff. That's normal. There's a camaraderie amongst superintendents, and whoever she or he might be will call the seated superintendent and ask questions. But that's the best thing to do. They can take yourself out of that realm. Be cautious about social media investigations. You're going to do it. I automatically Google folks just for the heck of it. I mean, I'm watching TV shows and I want to Google an actor or actress, and it comes up. You're going to do that, or you're going to say, "Oh, my brother-in-law lives in that town. I'm going to call them and ask." Those kinds of organic things are going to happen. But be really careful what you read and see online, etc. Just remember the old joke that you can't put it on the internet if it's not true. So you are going to have people talking in your ear in the process. And there will be various groups of stakeholders that may want to lobby you to hire this person or that person. Thank them. Thank you for sharing. And make sure that you make the best choice for your district as possible. If a candidate applies that you're related to within the 4th degree, please call me immediately. There are laws that govern that very carefully, and we can shepherd you through that process. I've had one district this year where that happened. They actually were in the 2nd degree, and as the way you go about voting determines, you have to go about voting in a certain way if that circumstance comes up. So if you end up with a relative, let me know. And lastly, don't recruit candidates because you're again telling them that, hey, come on over here, I got you. Have somebody else do it, but don't you do it. And if you ever have questions about anything, please let me know right away so that, I can hopefully give you good advice and guide you through some of that. There was one other thing I was going to review with you too. Oh, if it's all right with you, will it be okay with Jill as my contact person? If we're looking for information, that I can contact her at any time. Okay with that, Jill? Okay, and I will try never to put you in a confidential spot, but just know that may happen. You have other choices within the contract. I normally don't deal with contract, but Barb's not available. Sometimes she comes online during this part. You can do national advertising if you wanted to. There are options. Almost no districts do it anymore. Some of them do. The National Indian Education Association is one. There are other groups that are available. The National Hispanic Group of Educators, etc., are available to you. If you want to do something that you can add it to the contract. I'm not finding hardly anybody that does that anymore, and particularly in northern Minnesota, because pretty much we know everybody. It's just not that big of a deal. But if you do, let me know right away. And again, the background checks, it's listed there for you if you want to do it. we'll have to work through Barb Dorn on that process. Barb and Boyd have been talking and communicating back and forth. They have the contracts. Matter of fact, I think the contract's here for you to sign someplace. Jill will take it and send it back tomorrow. And finally, in the application, when they go through as a candidate to fill it out, they have to answer specific questions at the very end. There are 3 questions, one of which we ask of all candidates. Why do you think you are a good fit for Lake of the Woods School? And that, you'll get to read that for every candidate. And I don't know if that's exact wording, but it's to that effect. And then you can choose 2 other questions from the screening priorities that we've got here, or any other subject if you want. But typically, a district who is thinking about running a referendum in the following year, or is doing a facility issue of one kind or another, whether that's building, fixing, roofing, whatever, or perhaps they're doing a curriculum overhaul, or they're having other issues they want them to deal with, whatever. Here are some examples for you to take a look at, or maybe it's, we don't do a very good job communicating with our public. We need somebody who's really good at that. If you want to pick out 2 of these, we will add them, or you can write your own. We will add them to the application process so that when you read the papers, you'll see what they respond to as your question.
Let's say number 7. Describe your knowledge and experience relating to the school district finances and responsibility. Just use it if it's offering, choose 2 additional. Number 6. How do you model and uphold the district's values and policies? Kind of open and vague. And
But you'll find out whether or not they've read it or looked them up in a
I
hurry.
think it's just broad enough. I think it will yield some response that would be an insight.
One of the things I like when I design questions is to probe in such a way that they have to have some knowledge of the district. Because that way the board can pick out whether or not they did any background work or just walking in to interview for a job. And that would do that, 6 would do that.
Trying to see, is there any other than number 1 for basically improving education?
Well, it's something you can help us with a new question.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything else.
Number 1 kind of does it, but yeah.
That one also aligns with how would you align your vision with the district mission goals and strategic plan, so they would have to look that up
It's another
as
good one.
well to connect them, just to make a
Okay.
relation to number 6 as well.
Those are the 3 you want to go with? Everyone okay with that? Any others?
You have the
Wait,
one.
do we do 2?
2?
You get 2.
Okay.
So it's
So
either
can you-
6 or 1.
But maybe
Do
you
we-
could make your own between the 2. You know what I mean?
You can
What if we
rewrite
do
whatever you
the-
want to write,
Mhm.
whatever you want to put in.
Uh, all we have to do to make work number 6 into number 1 is,
Align your
Mission
vision
goals.
with the district mission, vision,
yep,
and
or,
values.
no,
or,
it'd
sorry,
be,
mission
yeah, it'd be
goals.
values, mission, values, goals, and strategic plan. And really, you just ask number 6. You can throw
Are
in
you
policies
okay
too if
about
you want.
policies, or
Yeah.
are you passionate about policies?
We can throw
I
policies in
am,
too.
but not on the question.
They're kind of boring.
Okay.
I'm good with not asking that being
In
one or
the two,
questions,
yeah. Kind of that more of a situational question.
You see,
What would you like?
so at the end, okay, so in the first one, what is your vision for the future of education? How would you align your vision with the district's mission, goals, values, and strategic plan? Or some semblance thereof.
Okay. Got it. And the other one you want is
Number 7.
7? Right. I can rewrite both of those. Just add the word values in between goals and strategic plan.
Correct.
7 as is?
7 as is.
Not a problem. Now, what I will do, we basically got the work done. By the way, thank you. This is a lot of stuff to throw at you in a short period of time.
Thank you for
I'm
being with
sorry
us.
about that, but we're trying to do this in as short a time frame as we possibly can to help you, try and get somebody yet this year. I will say this, if you get candidates and you interview people, don't settle. Find the person that you want, because it's the one choice as a board that you make, and this is the one person you hire that's your job. It isn't anybody else's. And get the right person. If you get to the point and you don't really want to make a decision, you can turn to MSBA. We do maintain a list of interim superintendent possibilities. And while it's probably not the perfect choice, you can bring an interim in for it next year. And then we can crank this up again, say December, January at the latest next year, so you can be at the head of the pack instead of the end of the pack when you're looking. In the meantime, we can be telling people when we run into, look, I know Lake of the Woods is going to be open. They'll know it because there's an interim there. The second side of that is, depending upon who the interim is, it's almost like a test drive. Because I've seen districts where they bring an interim in, and it works well for them, for both sides, and they end up cutting a contract between the two of them. So that is an option, just so that you know that. Hopefully you don't have to go to that.
Question for you as far as the charge to the district for the services provided. If we decide if we don't end up making the decision hiring off of this round, and then we wait until December, is
Yeah.
that it's
Because this
fee or?
Because this is a limited search, this is just covering the work that we're doing this year.
Okay.
If it was a full search, we'd do it for you for nothing the second year, and I've done that for a number of districts. So, again, I don't have contracts, but that's what the MSBA does.
Is the cost of the full search double?
Oh, it's more than double, it's about $8,000,
Yeah.
Okay.
$9,000, something like
I'm just
that.
making sure it wasn't.
Yeah, it's quite a
buy one,
bit
get
more.
one half off here or something.
Yeah, and in those cases, I'm here every step of the way. I'm here through all the interviews. I'm here when you're making the decisions about candidates and so on, so that there's somebody at your side at all the critical junctures. So not only to guide, but also to make sure that you don't get yourself into trouble. On a limited search, most of what we're doing, a little bit of it's tonight, but most of it is all of the work that's going on in the background. It's like a duck going across a pond. You don't see anything, but the legs are going like crazy. And the electronic stuff, and then our team of people that'll do the review of candidates and send those recommendations to you. So that's really what the cost is. I tried to do a low budget offering. It started a few years ago, and the reason was a lot of small districts just didn't want to spend the full dollar amount to do the searches. And MSBA, every district in the state belongs to MSBA, so they felt an obligation to provide options. So that's how it came about.
How many questions did you say?
I'd say
Recommended?
15, 16, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And then.
That's what I try to do when I build them.
for building that question set, is that something we have to approve in a meeting?
Yeah, you gotta do them in the open, or what you can do is, as a group, you decide Kayla's gonna do it all, and develop the questions and bring them back for everybody to see. But any piece of paper that hits the table is public,
Okay,
and it's a really awkward spot to be in. I was developing round 2 questions last night in a district, and I gave them all a copy of the papers, and we talked about the questions, question 3 under this section, question 2 under that section, etc., and they approved their list of questions, and then I collected them after the fact. If anybody in the audience had asked for them, we would have had to give them a copy. We asked people to consider to keep it confidential so that the playing field isn't uneven. I have had it where an internal candidate has asked for questions, and then we gave them the questions and turned around and rewrote all new ones, brought them in. Some years ago when COVID first hit, 3 years ago, whatever, 4 years ago, I was doing interviews down in southern Minnesota, and we live streamed the interviews. It's amazing. People at the end of the day just knew the answers to every single question, and we were so stunned. I would recommend do not live stream or record. There was a district that recorded, somebody wasn't hired and didn't like the way they were talked about and treated, they filed suit and won. So be really cautious about your video practices and those kinds of things.
So another question, like for the interview questions, is say, Kayla, no
Yep.
matter, and was like, she was the person and we each sent her
ideas.
questions to put together. Is that, like, say I did it on my own?
Don't do
I mean,
business
we're not-
over email. I mean, there's regulations about that, but if you want to hand her things and ideas that, you have to cross the board, well, that's fine. But I'd be really cautious about trying to conduct business over email. It's possible that she could develop a set of questions, bring to you at a board meeting to take a look at, and you could, talk about them by number or whatever, and then hand them back and just ask people to maintain confidentiality. Last night, the district I was working in has 2 internal candidates that are interviewed. And we did the questions out in the open, and if they wanted, they could have them because they were in the room. So, I think most people have enough ethics that that's not going to be an issue for them, that they'll be fine. And matter of fact, some cases they just walk away from the meeting. They just think, probably not appropriate for me to be here. So do the best you can to, and put things together. And again, if you Google or talk to Mary Thayer and Kelly or whatever, you'll be able to find all of the information you're looking for. Really easy.
Would it be useful to, like, if we came up with a whole pool of questions and then had everybody rank them almost, or pick
You
their...
could do that at the board table just by
Yeah.
number. Just say, I like section 1, number 3. I like section 2, number 4.
And then narrow it from like 20 or 25 down to 15 or whatever.
You've got, 5 or 6 categories in your leadership profile. Develop questions that reflect those things, and you can work that way. That's the way I do it out in the open all the time.
Okay.
Just know that if they ask you for it, you got to provide it.
So that would be at our March meeting that we then
Yep.
do that. Okay.
Any other questions? We will provide you with the next steps, and it is detailed. It tells you every step of what would be the next thing to do. We don't do it for you, but we give you that guideline, and then, I'll send it to Boyd. But
That'll help give a picture too.
it'll
I
give
think.
you a really good picture. It's a little overwhelming if you haven't done this before. Have some of you done searches before?
I'm in HR.
Okay, but I mean, a
My
superintendent
career.
thing, you
No.
know the process, yeah.
Right.
It's a little overwhelming at first if you haven't done it. You're doing fine. You're going to get to the point where you're going, what do I do, Kayla, help? And that's okay, or call, whatever we can do to help you or guide you. You're lucky you have somebody like Kayla available to you.
We're happy Kayla's available too.
Just not on April 4th.
No, we're gonna call you about 7 o'clock at night.
Just to articulate you said when all the applicants apply, and then it'll close, and then you said there's a link that.
Yeah, what'll happen is that April 2nd, you'll get an email from Shelby Herrera.
Who all gets that email?
All of you.
Anyone else besides
No,
board?
no one else
Okay.
has access or can have access by law.
Perfect.
Only you. You'll create a username and password like normal to get into stuff. And she'll have really good detailed instructions. Then the next morning, and she's working by 7 o'clock in the morning, she'll send out the link that you can then use your username and password to get in to see all the papers. And they're available to you 24/7 through the process. Once you're done, we'll shut the link down and protect the papers.
Yeah.
Okay. So we think a collection of questions for our March meeting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Is
doable.
it okay if do we all bring our own list or compile a list?
I've reached out, I just
Through-
reached out to a fellow school board member at Kellier that I know, and she said she'd see if she still has her list.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect, because I was gonna do the same
So-
thing, so.
I
If
think
she still has that, that'd be great, and if not, then we'll have to.
I think I got Laurel's that I sent to everybody too.
Yeah,
So then if we compile a list that we're like checking off and like talking about, that would be in the packet, correct?
Well, I would bring it and hand it out at the table and
Hand it out
then
at the
collect it
table.
when you're done.
And then collect it more.
Yeah,
Okay.
understand, any paper that hits board is
Right,
public.
yeah,
But in this case, I would suggest you treat it as confidential. If somebody asks for it, you gotta give it to them. In the
Okay.
meantime, it's a working paper for you to use.
okay,
And I think most people will understand that, you wanna have a level playing field and not have anybody have a super advantage.
okay.
So when all of us board members took that survey, which comes into the bullet points here, right? So the survey is kind of an insight into all of our minds as to what's important, right? So
Yes.
this is kind of a good cheat sheet for
Yep,
where some of our questions should be based on our interests.
censored around. Yep,
Absolutely. I saw there was a bunch of them that were very in tune with each other.
So right there's 12 categories that at least got at least 1 point out of the 27.
yeah, I think if we get some drafts from other districts and then could search on our own. So we have, here's what this search looked like, here's what this search looked like, and then here's some various ones that we feel important or could be important or could be more tailored to our district, and then from there have a discussion on it.
So at our next regular board meeting this Wednesday now,
24th.
and that's before we need the
That's
questions
before we-
compiled.
Yep,
So if we,
So what we would do,
if we all came, whether you choose to come with various questions or not, at the next board meeting, we can put it on as a discussion point. And then mine could just be my initials, CS1, CS2, or CS3, and then we can reference them like that, and then we can come to a decision. Should we do that at the next meeting? Otherwise, there's no other time, right?
yeah,
Unless
correct,
we call the work session for it.
correct.
It can be done.
I think we could do it on the 24th.
Yeah, that's
So-
doable.
As
Do
board
we want it
members,
to be one collective, like, document that we collect? So,
I guess I was envisioning, like, say there was 30 questions. It'd
Yep.
be written on probably 2 papers.
yep,
If you could, just read through them, just circle the ones you like. We don't even have to put names down. And then we just pass them all back in and collate them and just pick the ones if there were,
Could,
So you're talking they're already compiled, how do we do that?
It would, well,
well,
could we
they'd
send
already
them,
been created.
could we send them, like if we have a list of questions, could we send them to Jill and ask her to assemble?
Created if I can't
And then we
email
pick
them.
Well, that's what Robin's asking right now.
Like, could we, I would assuming if we had a bunch of questions that we wanted to offer for consideration, we can send them to Jill, and she could create a
Can we do
list.
that?
Yeah,
And then we can use that list.
We can send them to Jill, just not to each other.
yeah. we can do
Yeah.
that.
Can we send them to Kayla? Directly to her? Somehow?
Well, because I asked that question, you're like, you really don't want to do that on email with each other.
You notice that when I sent you an email, it was all blank carbon copied?
Yep.
yeah,
That way, if you respond, then it comes back to me. Because by
Right.
statute, you're not supposed to have running conversations back and forth.
right.
So as long as you adhere to that basic premise, not having running, whether you send one piece of information, if you start having email discussions back and forth, that's
Yeah.
what.
What I was talking
Never as a
about-
group, just
No,
like
I think that'd be
individually.
appropriate then for us
Correct.
to
So what-
just send our recommendations directly. We're not looking for a response. And
Yeah.
then she can come.
Just
um,
as data collection.
Well,
she can come to the board meeting
Because
with
there
them,
could be
and then you can number
repetitive
them.
too.
Yeah.
So like you could send the
That's
same
what I'm-
questions that
yeah.
Boyd sends, so then if we're all coming with,
it's kind of what I'm fully expecting is there's gonna be duplicate ones. And I think we're probably gonna, whatever Kelly came up with, I mean, it's, without reinventing the wheel, they're probably gonna be very similar, I would think.
Yeah, and I think something like that we're gonna focus on some of these ones that Fran bring.
okay,
So if you have a strong suggestion, forward it on, and then you can number them. Bring it.
works for
That
me.
sounds good.
Okay, anything else?
I'm good.
You needed something signed, you said today?
Yeah,
I'll
I'll do that. Yep.
I don't need it. Jill will take it and send it back to the office.
Okay.
I do not want to deal with contracts or money or anything like that. I
If we need-
retired 4 times. I think I just,
There you go.
Seems like it.
I'm terrible at retirement.
Does anyone have anything else for Lee or the rest of
Did
the
we
board?
need to did we need to approve anything?
I don't think we need to
No.
approve anything, I just need to sign some stuff, and that's all that's needed. We don't need any votes, so.
Okay.
Nobody's got anything else? At 6:43, we'll call it a meeting. Thank you.
Wait, what?
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
It's still on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hold it.
Hold it.